同学，大家好 ！Hello everyone， 我是黄老师 ，I'm Dr. Navar. You can call me 黄老师。Now, let's look at the pinyin of this character 我 again. Besides the initial and the final, it also has an accent mark on it. How does that change the pronunciation of 我? This accent mark indicates the tone of this syllable. Tones are very important in Chinese, and you probably have heard that Chinese has 4 tones plus 1 neutral tone, which is, strictly speaking, not really a tone. In most cases, the accent mark provides a hint as to how the tone would sound like. For instance, the first tone is pretty much flat and high. The second tone rises from low to high, etc., with an exception of the third tone. Now let's work on them one by one. Let's use this combination as an example. I'll read it with 4 different tones and see if you can hear the difference. 科 可 可 克 The first tone 科 科 The first tone is a flat high tone. When you try to extend it 科 No matter how far you go, the pitch remains the same. 科 flat high. Second tone, on the other hand, 可 as indicated by the tone mark, is a rising tone. 可 You start low and then climb. 可 If you try to extend it, what might happen? 可 You eventually reach the ceiling of your pitch capacity and it can't go higher anymore. One way to remember the second tone is to think of it as a questioning tone, like huh, huh, huh. It starts low and goes up. Now let's look at the third tone, 可. As I mentioned earlier, the accent mark of the third tone does not directly indicate how it should be pronounced. Actually, there are 2 ways to pronounce the third tone. Most of the time, it remains at the lowest range of your pitch, like a hesitating or You can think of this first way to pronounce the third tone as represented by the first half of the tone mark. It starts low and stays down there. The second way to pronounce the third tone is when there are 2 or more third tones in a row. It doesn't sound good and it's hard on your voice to produce several sounds at your lowest range, like So in a 3-3 tone combination, we would convert the first one into a second tone, the rising, questioning tone, huh? You can think of this second way of pronouncing the third tone as represented by the second half of the tone mark, rising just like the second tone. Let's look at the word fruit, 水果, as an example. Since it has 2 third tones in a row, the first one is converted into the second tone, 水果. The fourth tone, 克 克 is the sudden fall of the sound. You start high and then apply a sudden drop. 克. As you can see in this chart, the fourth tone travels the farthest range from very high to very low, which means it is a sudden and sharp fall. You can think of it as an angry, cursing tone, like shoot, crap, darn. Sometimes we might see a syllable in pinyin that does not have a tone mark on it. That means it is a neutral tone. These unmarked syllables just get no tone inflection. We just relax and pronounce it soft and light, similar to an unstressed syllable in English, like the second syllable in happy, awesome, winner, morning. Let's listen to some examples in Chinese that have neutral tones.
衣服，孩子，我的，太太。As you can see, the neutral tone tends to fall on the second syllable in a two-syllable word, and it just sounds like a light and soft ending.
Now, we have introduced all the rules you need to know about pinyin for the time being. Now guess, which tone combination is the hardest for English speakers? 2-3, 1-4, 4-2? From my own experience, it is the combination of two identical tones that really gets my students. I think part of it must be because in English, we have this stress system that always has a pitch change between two consecutive syllables. For instance, table, hello, how are you? So now you know. Whenever you see two syllables of the same tone in Chinese, make sure you pronounce the two tones exactly the same way.
One tip that may help you pronounce consecutive identical tones is to remember to reset after every sound. For instance, in the 2-2 combination, 丛林, after pronouncing the first rising sound, huh, you are at a high-pitch point that you need to reset so your second sound can start low and have room to go up again, like huh, huh, 丛林, 丛林.
Now, we have learned a lot about tones. But are tones really so important in Chinese? Well, let me show you an example. Here is a list of words that use the sound sh with different tones. 实施, 事实, 时事, 世事, and 史诗. As they all have different meanings, people will not be able to understand you if you don't have the tones right. Therefore, I would recommend, whenever you learn a new word, take it as your top priority to practice and memorize the tones.